I mean, I'm inclined to attribute what happened in the 60s to the just the fall from. I would say that America reached its peak, economically speaking, in the 60s. And then after that, I think after they hit their after any nation hits its peak, obviously what happens next is the decline. And I think that decline is directly associated, or this is what I've always associated with, but I've always associated that decline directly with the culture shift that happened in the 60s.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I don't know if it's that, because
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking it's after we stopped having big military guys be president. But then I was like, why did big military guys stop trying to run
that's
for
the same way
president?
I thought. I was thinking, what caused America's economy to stop accelerating and slow down?
Yeah. What exactly was it? I don't. What was the factor that changed it all?
Okay, the economic model I've always believed in. I was talking to my dad about this, but Keynesian economics, I believe, worked way better than modern monetary theory because it focused on real physical things. Because when Nixon removed the gold standard, the American dollar became it's what is it? Right? The dollar is nothing. It's just you can print it. So what modern monetary theorists believe is that by adjusting the money supply, right? You can fix all economic issues. Except if you think about this on a let me make sure. All right.
Good.
All right. So what I was saying was you asked why you think America started peaking in its economy and why its economic growth wasn't accelerating or stopped accelerating. And the reason I said was because I think that the shift from Keynesian economics to modern monetary theory has especially fucked up the economy because if you think about it, so I said
Hey
that
man, watch your language.
yeah, my bad. So
No, we can't market this. No, we can't market this to kids anymore.
yeah,
That means the amount of money we make per view is gonna be lower. You bum.
all right, bro, my bad. But the what I was saying was the modern monetary theory believes in adjusting the money supply, so to solve economic issues. But the reason that's a problem is because money supply or money isn't real anymore because Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, which means the dollar is backed by nothing. It's just something that you print. So if you think about this from just a logical standpoint, how can you solve real economic issues by adjusting something that doesn't even exist? It doesn't make sense. The Keynesian model was to increase aggregate demand through government spending to solve economic issues. And that's something real because when you adjust demand, then real things are happening in the economy. Real things are being purchased and real things are being manufactured. So that's why I think that America's economy peaked and stopped accelerating because our approach to economics was just completely wrong after that point.
Sure. Nixon was after, or he was in the late 60s to the early 70s, right?
Right.
So you're saying that's the time that the growth rate of the economy just started slowing down drastically.
Exactly. And exactly. That's when I think the growth rate of the economy is accelerating, or I think at that point was when the growth rate of the economy started going down. But
Yeah.
now is when it's going down the fastest because if you can think about most nations as a slope like this. So 60s, 70s, we were here and we were coming down. Now we're just crashing down faster. Is what I believe.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything the country could do, or it's just a natural cycle?
I think at this point, it's inevitable. From an idealistic standpoint, you could do something. Manufacturing, like I said, the power of manufacturing is insane. Because look at what it did to China's economy. It completely made it boom. So when you produce real things, and then you sell those real things, it is so beneficial for an economy. And we need to bring that kind of idealistically, you could do this and solve the economy's problems. But unidealistically, if we're looking at the condition or all the factors in America right now, I think the fall of America from its first place in the economic model or worldwide standings is inevitable.
That's true. But also, I feel like manufacturing jobs as well can't be done quite as easily because the pay for those and the demand for those, or the demand might be the same as ever, or even higher than ever, but the pay for those and the social respect for those is so low comparatively.
Yeah. But why do you think the pay for those became so low?
Because we stopped doing it.
Yeah, because we shifted away from that.
But blue collar work as a whole is not too, I don't know, not too well looked upon in society.
Exactly, but
It's a lot of immigrants, and all these immigrants, they're not making much. They're making under minimum wage because they're undocumented.
yeah, but the reason blue collar work lost its respect and the wage gap became so big was because of exactly what I'm saying. When because if you I'm going to take a recent example, but this has been happening for a long time, just smaller versions of this. But the most dramatic example of this was in 2008 when the big banks were selling derivatives. What are financial derivatives? They're nothing. They're not It's nothing real. They're just making money off of nothing. And that increased. So if these people who are selling nothing are making so much money, then all the jobs in that office are also going to be making more money. So when you incentivize selling nothing, then obviously the things when you're actually selling something, it's just going to fall off. So I think the reason even blue collar work is not appreciated as much or doesn't make as much is because of the fact of modern monetary theory.
That makes sense. I mean, what I was thinking while you were explaining that, you think the development of AI could actually be a good thing for this?
In terms of for manufacturing.
Manufacturing.
Yeah.
Because either I think all the human labor can just be replaced by machines, but then also in the things that machines can't do. I think machines can take over most jobs that you can get with a degree. And I think that the jobs that people are going to flock towards are going to be creative stuff like a podcast or blue collar work.
Mm-hmm.
Because who trusts AI with, or I mean, I'm sure the trust factor will establish, but one of our English teachers was saying that a lot of blue collar work might end up worth learning for this generation more than any other up to this point.
Yeah. I haven't thought about it that much, but now that you mention it, I think that could be a thing. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like AI is going to transform our economy. While I want to assume that everything is cyclical and abides by patterns and that we should be able to predict what's going to happen next, it's so difficult to do. So, I don't know. I'm not sure how AI is going to affect the economy, but it does make sense that blue collar work would be more valuable because white collar jobs would just be
They lose their value.
Yeah.
If there's a sales bot that can do every single thing
Mm-hmm.
that any salesperson could do, it looks at every single sales call in the entire world or that's ever been recorded.
Yeah.
And it just copies and says the prompts to
Yeah.
the best fit that it can.
The ones that work.
Yeah. The experience that AI has had, that robot has had more experience than any other salesperson in history.
Yeah.
So it's ultimately the best salesperson.
While loops. No, I'm joking.
What the fuck?
It might be a connection. I'm just
No,
saying.
but and even if you're looking at, I mean, tech, for example, while loops, a robot that knows every single programming language, that knows every single loophole,
Yeah.
it doesn't forget anything,
Yeah.
it doesn't burn out, it can just keep going 24/7 nonstop.
Exactly.
Why would there be need for any person after that?
Yeah. Maybe it'll be a dramatic change for the economy. But I think before AI.
And also, we have a significant employment shortage, or a need for more employment, or we have jobs that we want people to fill, but they're not filling it, or we don't have the people to fill those jobs. And I think once AI becomes a mainstream thing, that gap will be taken care of. So some smaller companies will become bigger companies because of it.
Yeah. I think before that happens, before AI becomes so as big as what you're saying will happen, that I think at that point America will have already lost its spot as the number one economy in the world, because what China is expected to overtake America's economy by
In this decade,
in this decade. So do you think AI will get that big before this decade ends? So
potentially. I don't know. I feel like America can always find some way to pull back through, because I think education in most of the other countries, or I don't know about education specifically, but I think values and whatnot, some sort of culture difference. Because we were talking about this in the David podcast. I don't think China or India or whatnot can make the next Bill Gates.
they could. I think the culture is changing so much. Look at the recent things in India that have been going on, like such as Flipkart or Zomato. These are all.
But that's just people copying off American designs.
But that's how it starts. But I'm saying, Bill Gates was when 1990. That was well after America's economy reached its peak.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to take a while, but we'll start innovating once we become the best. So I guess what I'm trying to say is these changes are just going to happen, and it's not something that's specific to our time. It's a well-proven pattern that occurs throughout time. And if you really want to talk about a larger pattern that I've noticed, look at how powerful throughout history. If you examine history, India and China have been the societies that have been the most successful for the longest periods of time. And then in shorter periods, you have other societies that dominate for a little bit, but then slowly it just falls back to centuries of Indian and Chinese dominance. And the reason that sticks out to me is population. There's just no other reason that I think that's common between these two countries that causes that kind of success. So I think just due to how old these civilizations are, we have more people there. And I think ultimately it's wherever most people are located that will be most successful.
That makes sense. But, I mean, we're
Human
talking about
labor-
success as a country, but what about individual success?
With like specific, as in,
With people.
yeah.
David was saying the housing market was getting so expensive in China, or in the city parts of China. What about, the housing and the land being more valuable in China can be seen as a good thing for the whole country, but it can't be seen as a good thing for the people that are trying to buy the land.
It's not a good thing for the country either. I mean,
Why? The land, that means the country is becoming more valuable.
the land there is becoming more valuable, but then that results in it'll just become, because look at Dubai or some place like that. It's just going to become, I think, whatever those cities are, it's just going to become places like that. Because again, China is reaching its peak economically. So I would say that this is a bad thing. What's happening? Like land prices going up way too much and people not being able to afford it. You know, the people are what's at the core of an economy.
Yeah.
And if they can't have affordable rent, then the economy is going to fall apart. Again,
So you think because there's so many people there, that you'll find some way to offset that, or they'll find some way to offset that?
from a really big historical standpoint,
Yeah.
I think that Chinese and Indian dominance is inevitable, just because human labor is so valuable, and without it, you can't.
Yeah, but then my point is that what if AI?
Yeah. Okay, but in that case, we would have to consider that AI is really this next big thing, because then we have to zoom out even more.
I think AI is going to be, in terms of the long-term impact it has, it's going to be way more influential than phones or the internet.
Or the
anything
internet,
like that.
exactly.
'Cause it fundamentally changes the way our society should work.
Then the closest comparison would be agriculture.
Sure, yeah.
Because agriculture was when India and China became dominant because it flourished their populations. So in that case, yeah, we'd have to compare AI to an agricultural revolution. And then in that scenario, we can't even predict what's going to happen.
Yeah, true.
It's just that big
Yeah.
because of its scale.
You know why I smiled?
Why?
I smiled because I thought that would be a great short.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. But you're right. I've never heard someone compare AI to the agricultural revolution, but
Yeah.
I think that's the most similar thing that you can think of.
Yeah. You think that's a good place to end?
You think?
Yeah.
All this time and it's still shorter than the Yoon Jae episode?
Compare AI to the agricultural revolution.
All right, whatever. Good conversation.
Yeah.
How did we end up? How did we end up from talking about Russian Samba to
Yeah.
this?
iPhone storage full. That's perfect.
Oh man.